Tim, it's Friday. How are you?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
I can tell you're gassed. I could see it, but that's okay. The finish line's almost there. So,
Dude, I've thrown 131 pitches. I'm laboring here. I've got a couple runners on base. I see, look, I see the manager on the top step of the dugout. And so I'm trying to close this thing out, but you're right. I mean, it's a hot, humid day in August, and that's it. That's where I'm at.
you know, it's interesting you say that because Dallas Green in early April or early May threw Al Leiter. Al was on the mound for like 160 something pitches and a cold, miserable day. And Al will tell you that really set him back considerably anyway.
You know what? I mean, come on. First of all, Dally was an old school guy, and he came from an era where guys weren't whining. And I like Al Leiter. So let's be Al. We love you. I know you're a big fan of the show. It's more that I think we've gone to an era where the old school and the new school are so different. And baseball's become very specialized and whatnot. But I think these guys can go deeper into the games, and I think the game would be a lot more interesting. But
that's a segment for next week. I mean, old school baseball segment. And by the way, Dally is not Dallas Green. Dally, of course, was in the Outsiders.
I pulled Dally from the Outsiders, Matty D.
So anyway, getting back to what I was trying to go originally is, as you know, I'm a huge Southern rock fan, and Molly Hatchet, believe it or not, their first album was a great album, and one of the songs on the album was
self-titled.
One man's pleasure is another man's pain. And I bring that up specifically for this reason. After the bell today on Friday, you saw the news about Google, Department of Justice coming down, of all the states coming down on their head, antitrust. I mean, we've heard this, we've seen this movie before, but it is a big deal. So my question to you is, A, is it a big deal for Google? And if it is their pain somebody else's pleasure?
Well, I tell you what, I was in some pain when Danny Joe Brown, the lead singer of Molly Hatchet, passed. But then there was some joy that came with knowing that Phil McCormack lived the real rock star. Remember that movie with Marky Mark where he actually became the lead singer of that hair band that he knew every word? He sat in the front row. Well, effectively that happened with Hatchet, with Phil McCormack, who was in a cover band called the Road Ducks that played at Georgetown all the time. And they did a great version of Flirting with Disaster. So is Google flirting with disaster right now? Look, they have spent the last year. It was June 3rd, 2019, when the DOJ basically said you, Facebook, and Apple are in our targets. And I think that this is something that you have to believe that there is plenty of momentum at this point, both on the DOJ level, a DOJ that's been irascible, if I may, under this administration, and unpredictable as well. But the state AGs, I think, have a bone to pick. And if you think about it, think about what's going on in this country right now and small businesses and what might be politically expedient to go after Google, who's put small businesses out. I mean, let's be clear. This is about anti-competition. I love Google. But you can't tell me that they haven't operated and essentially squeezed a lot of people. The allegations that some of their ad technology is also anti-competitive and obviously in the focus. So Google shareholder, love those numbers we got 2 weeks ago. Amazingly resilient relative to COVID-19. But it's going to be hard for me to say that this company will not have a discount because of some of this target on its back. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you look at the move in Google, Alphabet, Google.
I've never called it Alphabet.
Nor do I. I do it in the context.
I'm embarrassed for you that you referred to it as Alphabet. I guess you didn't. You're now just claiming that.
Can I get a redo on? Can I get a redux on that?
Please take it.
So Google went from an all-time high, I think, of 1531 down to 1,000, like that. And if you look, I'm more inclined to try to find an entry point here for Google. So I think it closed around 1360 or so. 1280 to me makes sense for a lot of different reasons, not least
Hold on 1 second.
That might be Al Leiter, by the way.
Someone's calling.
Put it on hold.
Yeah. Al, look, pal. Sorry. You know what? You're right. And get my grill. Bye. Keep going.
Anyway, 1280 is a level where I think you look to get in this. So it's not the question of is this stock unbuyable? I think more question is, where do you get in? I think 1280 is the level. And I would say this, I said, one man's pleasure, another man's pain. You brought up Phil McCormack, the Road Ducks. By the way, the best cover they did, just so you know, was Blackfoot's Train,
Yeah.
which starts with just a vicious harmonica for the record.
That was a nice cover. And look, at a time when people are looking for good balance sheets and defensive, and I do think that Google is all that. And I think that their numbers on YouTube, which has 2 billion monthly average users, are really now starting to inflect. I think the leverage at YouTube is extraordinary. But for now, I think this company's in detention. And with that, I think it's important that we address some feedback we got on Twitter about, we made some references last night to the Breakfast Club. And seeing as these kids were all on detention, I believe, in high school together, lumped together. I think we need to address a couple things about the Breakfast Club. The first of which is, how did they choose Emilio Estevez for the burly jockey guy when, in fact, Anthony Michael Hall was the guy that ended up doing steroids, and even at that time probably could have kicked his butt. So
at that time, he played the scrawny nerd.
Dude, he was Weird Science with Kelly LeBrock.
That was him. I think Emilio Estevez. I think that he was a wrestler. You went to high school. All the wrestlers that I grew up with looked like him. Short guy.
They were cute little guys. And you know what? What's also, I think, important to raise about Breakfast Club is that maybe the best role in that movie was Paul Gleason, who's the same guy that was Clarence Beeks in Trading Places and Dwayne T. Robinson in Die Hard and a few other roles that were unbelievable. I forget, what was that guy's name?
That's a great poll. I don't know his name. It's a fantastic poll by you.
Dude, how about in Trading Places, where he's in the phone booth, he's probably talking to the Dukes, and the old lady knocks on the booth, wants to use the phone, opens the door, says, "Excuse me," and drops an F-bomb on her and closes the door and keeps talking. It was genius. Great soundtrack. And I'll bet when you first heard that song, "Don't Forget About Me,"
it's an awful song.
You thought it was Billy Idol, not The Simple Minds.
No, I thought it was an awful song. Is what I thought. It didn't. I don't really care who sang it. It was just that. And when I hear it to this day, I find it just. As a matter of fact, the movie, I believe it's called Pitch Perfect. That song plays a prominent role in it. And although I love the movie, that song just does something to me, not in a good way. It does to me. It does to my emotions what Cheerios do to my digestive tract.
Ooh. Jim Kerr, lead singer for Simple Minds, was married to, maybe is married. I don't know. They may not even still be together again. What front woman, real siren, and one of my favorites.
Deborah Harry.
Close. Same, slightly
Chrissy
later
Hine.
era. Who?
Chrissy Hine.
Chrissy Hine. How you doing? Nice effort, man. Pretenders. We can talk about this stuff forever, but I think we should let you go back and begin your weekend. Crank up the hatchet or crank up the Blackfoot, whatever you need to do. I need to. Have a good weekend.
See you later, Tim.